الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, my brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today we are going to continue from where we stopped last week. We are still in our program, the beloved program of the personality of the beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we started talking about the concept of ad-dhabihayn. We've mentioned last week that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to be called Ibn al-Dhabihayn, the son of the two sacrificials, namely Ismail, the son of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and his biological father, Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib. And I think last week we've mentioned the way in which Ismail alayhi salam was called al-Dhabih through the story of how his father saw a dream that he was slaughtering his son, and he revealed the dream to his son Ismail, and his son said unto him, Ya abati fa'alna tu'mar satajiduni insha'Allahu min as-sabirin. And today, inshallah, we are going to talk about Abdullah, the biological father of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and see how he becomes ad-Dhabih. Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib was one of the sons of Abdul Muttalib, and Abdul Muttalib took an oath, another, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when Allah gave him 10 sons that are going to protect him, he's going to slaughter one of them as a sacrifice to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, taqarruban ila Allah. And how did that happen? Abdul Muttalib, as we know, is one of the members of Quraysh tribe, and Quraysh tribe is one of the really important tribes in Makkah at the time. And he was one of the leaders because his father was one of the leaders, and then his father died when he was born, and his mother took him to her family in Medina because his mother belongs to Bani Najjar and the specific clan of Al-Khazraj from Bani Najjar. So she took him with her to Medina, to her family, and she stayed there for some time until he became a young man. And his uncle went to Medina and took him and brought him back to Makkah. His uncle is Al-Muttalib. His name actually is not Abdul Muttalib. His name was Shaybatul Hamd. So when his uncle brought him back to Medina, people saw him with a little son behind his camel, and they called him Abdul Muttalib. They thought that Al-Muttalib bought a slave, so they started calling him Abdul Muttalib. And he told them that, look, he's not my slave. He is the son of my brother who passed away. So he brought him with him, he raised him, and Abdul Muttalib became one of the leaders of Arabs. And one day he saw a dream, and that was the dream that changed everything in his life. He saw the dream that someone was telling him that there was a well in between two statues called Na'ila and Al-Asad around the Kaaba. There's a buried well there, and he needs to go and dig it up, and that well is the well of Zamzam. He needs to go do that. He didn't take it seriously, but he kept seeing the same dream every night, to the point that he realized that this is a very serious message coming from beyond and above. He has to go ahead and execute that. So he actually went ahead and started making an attempt to dig that well. But the people of Makkah, from the tribe of his tribe actually, Quraysh, because we know that Quraysh has different clans, even within Quraysh themselves, right? So many different people from different clans came and started trying to stop him from doing that. for whatever reason, they made several attempts to stop him. And he was like, I'm not going to stop. I have to do this. I've been receiving this message through a dream. I know that something much bigger than me is possible to do this. I have to do this. So he went ahead and he kept making attempts to do it until he finally succeeded. After 6 days of digging together with his first son, he kept digging and digging until he reached some very valuable things that were buried in the well by the tribe known as Al-Jurhum. Jurhum was one of the old Arab tribes known as Al-Arab al-Ba'id. And we've talked briefly about the categories of Arabs, Al-Ba'id, Al-Ariba, Al-Musta'ariba last week. So they are part of the tribe of Al-Jurhum. And they were the ones who lived there and benefited from this Zamzam well during the time of Ismail and his mother. So when they were leaving the place, they buried the well. And they buried many valuable things inside the well, including some gold and some weapons and things like those. So after 6 days of digging, Abdul Muttalib reached those things, those valuable things, and he was like, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. So, we should have a waqfa at this point. This is one of the many things that happened to Abdul Muttalib, at which he said, Allahu Akbar. As we progress in the story, we will see another point at which the first thing that comes to his mind and comes to his tongue is Allahu Akbar. Why is that? That is to say that Abdul Muttalib, even though he lived among people who worship idols, he does not worship idols himself. He does not believe in worshiping idols. He believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he believes in the oneness of Allah through the chain of the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, which was known as Al-Hanifiyya. So he is in the Al-Hanifiyya religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. But one might wonder and say that, but if he does not believe in idols, then how comes from among his children we have one that is called Abdul Uzza? And guess who is Abdul Uzza? Can someone guess who is Abdul Uzza from among the children of Abdul Muttalib? Abu Lahab. Thank you very much. I would have loved that you leave it for the younger ones. Abu Lahab is actually a nickname. His father called him Abu Lahab because of how handsome he was. Very handsome person. أخاذ للعقول والألباب. Because of how handsome he was. So his father nicknamed him Abu Lahab. But his actual name is Abdul Uzza. Al-Uzza, as we know, is one of the idols in Kaaba that were being worshipped, right? Why would Abdul Muttalib call his son that if he does not actually believe in Al-Uzza? The explanation to that is that the meaning of Abd in that time does not actually mean the exact literal meaning of Abd as we understand it after the coming of Islam. Because he has another son by the name Abdul Kaaba. And clearly Kaaba is not one of the idols that they worship, isn't it? So he has a son Abdul Uzza and he has another son Abdul Kaaba, which means it's just a normal naming. The same way that himself was nicknamed Abdul Muttalib, even though Muttalib was his uncle, not his Lord, not his God, right? So it's a cultural thing at the time to give a person a name that begins with Abd, Abdul Fulan, right? That does not signify the fact that Abdul Muttalib actually believed in idols or worshipped them. So the first thing that came to his mind was Allahu Akbar, right? And the Hanifiyya, that is the religion that he followed, is so mixed up that sometimes it's so mixed up with the culture that you sometimes find even people who have done a lot of sins and all of that, no one is even thinking about the possibility of these people being good people. he talked about God sometimes. We know that this time we're talking about is the time that is known as Al-Asr al-Jahili, and probably some of us might study the literature known as Al-Adab al-Jahili. And if you study anything in Arabic literature, especially the Adab al-Jahili, you must have known someone by the name Imru al-Qais. Imru al-Qais is known for what is called Shi'r al-Mujud, the poetry in which he describes a very he used very vulgar language in describing women, right? But still in his poetry you find somewhere where he says, Allahu anjahu ma qalabtu bihi wal birru khayru haqibati rahali wa shama'ili ma qad alimta wa ma nabahat kilabuka tariqan mithli. God is what I use for whatever I face in my life, and I will definitely succeed as long as God is with me. Right? So you can't actually discern the point at which someone becomes what in Asr al-Jahili sometimes, right? Like in the case of Imru al-Qais and his poetry, which sometimes include this aspect of being godly and another aspect that includes that vulgarness and all of that. So that is that. Abdul Muttalib kept digging with his son, and after some few days they actually got to the point where the water of Zamzam started gushing out, and he went Allahu Akbar again. The water of Zamzam became a reality, and that was how Abdul Muttalib established the place for people to drink when they come for Hajj, which is known as a Seerah. And before you know it, the same Arabs that made attempt to stop him from digging the well, now they don't want Abdul Muttalib to take credit for that. They're like, but you can't claim the credit for giving people water when they come for Hajj. Your name is going to be very popular, you're going to be a star. And we are not going to let that happen. We have to take turns in giving people water from Zamzam. It's not yours. He was like, seriously? Are you guys really serious right now? Just a few days ago, you're trying to stop me from doing this. And then they threatened him. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So now it is not the power of reason, it is a reason of power. We're stronger, we're more powerful, there's nothing you can do. It's not yours alone, it's for all of us, and you can't take credit for this alone. That was when Abdul Muttalib felt so helpless that he turns away from them, and he raised up his hand in prayers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying that, oh Allah, give me, send this to me, because I don't have al-man'a. There's nobody that is going to stop them from doing this and protect me. So it comes together with another. That, oh Allah, if you give me 10 kids, I'm going to slaughter one, I'm going to sacrifice one of them for your sake. And lo and behold, Allah gave him 10 kids, 10 children. But before that happens, how was that issue resolved? Before we get into Abdul Muttalib getting 10 kids and now making an attempt to sacrifice one. They suggested that, look, if you are not going to accept our proposal to be your partners in taking the credit and managing the affairs of Zamzam, there is this woman, an Arrafa, who lives in Yemen. She's like a soothsayer woman. Let's go to her, talk to her and ask her. This woman is actually going to resurface in our story the second time. Then they set to travel to Yemen to go meet this woman. And they were on their way going there. When the story reached them that she is no longer there, she is in Tabuk. And then they turn back to the road of Tabuk. They're still journeying. But lo and behold, on their way to Tabuk, they run out of drinking water. What are they going to do? They said, okay, what we are going to do is each and every one of us, or two people, team up, go and dig a well and see if you can be able to get water. They split different teams and they started. And after just few minutes of digging, where Abdul Muttalib was digging started bringing water out. Abdul Muttalib drank from that water and gave them water to drink, without even thinking. There and then some of them said, look, you just have to give up. This itself is enough signal that we don't have to, we should not be arguing with this man. Allah has just shown us ayah that Zamzam belongs to this man. Because without this man now, all of us would die. That was how they came by to Makkah. Abdul Muttalib reached the age of 60. And now, because he married several women, he had many children, and he had 10 of them, male children. And he had many daughters as well. Okay? All of a sudden, he remembered the promise that he's taking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He remembered the mithaq, the nadar. That I vowed that if Allah give me 10 children, I will slaughter one of them. What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? Then he announced to Quraysh that look at what I did, and now I have to slaughter one of my sons. How are we supposed to do? Then someone suggested that, okay, since that is the case, what you're supposed to do is to go for voting. Right? There is an Arab culture around that they will get arrows and write the name of each of the kind of contestants in that case. So they wrote the name of all the contestants on different arrows, 10 different arrows with names. What they are going to do now is to draw the arrows and see whose name appears. It's like balloting. It's like each one of them has a ballot. The difference is that it is now on an arrow. And they started drawing, and Abdullah's name came out. SubhanAllah. And Abdullah was the most beloved person from among the children of Abdul Muttalib. Was the most beloved in Mecca. Because he was himself very handsome, and at the same time, in terms of akhlaq, in terms of morality and behaviors, he was the best, the very best. He was like uncomparable with anyone. So everyone likes Abdullah, including his father. He loves him more than anyone else. The moment Abdullah's name came out, the whole Mecca was on an emotional roller coaster. No one likes that story. And when people were in that state of very high emotions, Abdul Muttalib grabbed Abdullah with a knife in his right hand and dragged him towards the Kaaba. And Abdullah, being the docile son that he was to his father, very loyal to him, he just followed his father. And his father made that attempt to slaughter Abdullah. That was when Abu Talib is a full brother of Abdullah. He came and grabbed his father. He grabbed his father's hand and said, no way, Dad, you are not doing this. You can't do this. So there are a number of things here. Why is it that Abdullah has many other brothers, but none of them came to rescue him? Only Abu Talib came to rescue him. Many other brothers of his were actually half brothers, but Abu Talib was his full brother. They are from the same mom, right? So he came and grabbed his father's hand, and immediately he came and grabbed his father's hand, something happened. Many people came in support of Abu Talib to stop Abdul Muttalib from slaughtering Abdullah. But those people, it happens, all of them are from Abu Talib's mother's side. They are his mom's relatives, akhawai, his uncles from his mother's side. And they came to Abdul Muttalib and said, look, Abdullah is your son, but he is equally our son. If you slaughter Abdullah, you are killing our son, and we are not going to let you do this. He said, but I promised Allah to do this. He said, no way, we have to find a way around this. And Abdullah's mother was from a tribe called Bani Makhzum. In Mecca, the most important tribe is obviously Quraysh. But Quraysh has different clans. The most important clans are three: Banu Hashim, Banu Umayyah, and Banu Makhzum. These are the three most important clans. They're wealthy, they're very rich, they're very influential, they have many influential individuals. So they are kind of untouchable in Mecca. So now, Abdul Muttalib is from Bani Hashim. He can do whatever he wants because he has the support of his tribe since he has children now. But Banu Makhzum are equally very powerful. You see how politics can get in the way of anything and kind of distort it. So Bani Makhzum, they now remember that Abdullah is also their son because his mother is from them. So they stop Abdul Muttalib. They say it's not going to happen. There's no way you can slaughter Abdullah. What do you think I'm going to do? He said, there's just no way. Okay, the Arrafa in Yemen that we mentioned before, he came into the picture again. He said, okay, we have a proposal for you. Go to this woman in Yemen, take Abdullah with you. Go to this woman and ask her to give you a solution to this. Abdul Muttalib thought for a while and he accepted their proposal. He said, okay, but I have to do what I have to do. And he took Abdullah and they set on the journey to Yemen. So they went and they met this woman and they told her the story. After telling her the story, she said, okay, what is the diya, the alimony of a person in your tribe? He said 10 camels. I said, okay, you're going to need to do something that is going to be pleasing to your Lord and saving your son. So go back to Mecca and do the same arrow drawing balloting that you've done among your sons. Do it with Abdullah against 10 camels. If the arrow is for Abdullah, it comes out against Abdullah, add 10 more camels. Keep adding until your Lord is pleased with what you're doing. I said, okay. Then he said back, came back to Mecca. And now the drama is unfolding. He came back to Mecca, and now instead of 10 arrows, before we have 11 arrows. Arrow for each of the camel and arrow for Abdullah. They drew the arrow with the name of Abdullah came out. That is really emotional for everyone in Makkah. Abdullah has to go. But no, Allah has already destined that Abdullah is going to give birth to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We will never let that happen. 10 more camels. We have 21 arrows. Draw the arrow. Abdullah's name is out. 30 camels. We have 31 arrows. Abdullah's name came out. 40 arrows. Abdullah's name came out. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Camel's arrow only came out after we have 100 arrows against Abdullah's name. And the whole Makkah was very emotional, chanting and happy and celebration and all of that. But immediately that happens, Abdul Muttalib felt like his conscience was still not clear. He said, no, I have to do this again. I have to do this at least 3 times before I am completely pleased that Allah has chosen me to slaughter the animals rather than Abdullah. And the whole Makkah was on its toe at that point in time. What's this man doing? Is he crazy or something? Allah is saving your son and you still want to do it again? You still want to gamble with this? Abdul Muttalib was adamant. He went back and did it again. And the camel's arrow came out. He did it again for the third time, and the camel's arrow was out. And that was when he said, okay, now you can celebrate. And everyone started celebrating, subhanAllah. That was how Abdullah was saved. And that was how he got the name Al-Dhabih. That was how the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam got the title Ibn al-Dhabihayn. What's the lesson from this? The lesson from this is, look, if Allah destined something for you, forget about all the problems in your way. That thing is going to end up in your hand regardless of whatever problem is in the way. Allah made this to happen just so we know that since Allah has destined Abdullah is going to give birth to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ismail is going to give birth to the lineage that will end up with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, nothing is going to stop that. Absolutely nothing. There's no amount of obstacles that will change that from happening. So Abdullah was saved from physical trial. And now Allah put him on another trial. Now it's going to be emotional trial. Because of that light that radiates from him, the light of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that radiates from him. Everyone likes him, everyone loves him. And because of the incidents of the camel, he becomes very popular in Makkah. Way more popular than he was before. And then women came into the picture. He was going home from the incidents. On his way home, a woman, very beautiful and very wealthy, came in his way and stopped him. Abdullah, can I talk to you for a while? It's like, go ahead, what do you want to tell me? I think I like you. What do you mean you like me? He said, like, you see the number of camels that your father slaughtered to save you? He said, yes. I have more camel than those. And I can let you have all of them if you want. Just if you would do what I asked you to do. Your dad slaughtered 100 camels to save you. I'll give you more than 100 camels. Just to accept my request. Allah is putting Abdullah on another trial. And why is that? So that Allah shows to the whole world that this person that you see here is a special person. I have an assignment for him, and that assignment has to be fulfilled. It's not a coincidence that Abdullah is the father of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not. No, he's a special person designed specifically to carry that mission, and he has to fulfill that mission. That was when he turned to that woman and said to her, أَمَّا الْحَرَامُ فَالْمَمَاتُ دُونَ. Me committing zina, subhanAllah, I would rather die than do this. Keep your camels, keep your wealth, keep whatever you have. I would rather die than commit this thing you're asking me to commit. I remember, at that time Prophet Muhammad was not even sent. Abdullah, his father, and all the people of Mecca, they are between two options. To be Ahlul Fatra, or the best bet is to be on the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, which they don't even know the Sharia of that religion at the time. But still, his nafs, his conscience, will not let him commit sin. That is to say that when a person has a good heart and clean heart, sometimes you don't even need to be told to avoid committing bad. You just feel like you don't like this. You just don't like it. That is what Allah describes in Surah Al-Hujurat. حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانَ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِصْيَانَ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الرَّاشِدُونَ فَضْلًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَنِعْمَةً. When Allah loves you, He just makes you love everything that He loves. You love to be loyal to Allah. You love to do what Allah asks you to do. Without even being told, without even being reminded. وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِصْيَانَ. He makes you hate committing sin. You go near sin, you feel disgusted. You don't want to go near that. And that was what Allah did to Abdullah at the time. He could do it without any consequences. In fact, he would get huge reward for doing it. Way more than the wealth that was spent to save his life. But he was like, no, why should I do this? That is as-zabih al-thani. Remember, we are still talking about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but talking a little bit about part of his lineage and how Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came and through the link that he ended up with us. So after that incident, Abdullah, because those incidences started happening, his father thought of, okay, Abdullah needs to get married, so he took him to Wahab's family, and it's another respected family, which actually also linked back to the Prophet's lineage of Bani Hashim, Bani Adnan. So he took him to Wahab's family and asked for their daughter's hand in marriage to his son, their daughter Annie. And the wedding took place, and Anna became his wife. Not long ago, after the wedding has happened, Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib met the same woman like 2 months thereabout after that incident. He met the same woman that wanted to seduce him 2 months back. And she saw him, she didn't even pay attention to him on one of the parts of Mecca. And he looked at her and said, "Aren't you the woman that wanted to seduce me some months back?" She said, "Yeah." "So why are you not talking to me now?" She was like, "You don't look the same right now. You look very different now. The radiation that I saw in you that day is no longer with you. What happened to you?" He didn't know himself. But the scholar's interpretation was the fact that Amina was pregnant at the time. So the radiation was coming from the soul of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was with him at the time, and now it's no longer with him. It's with Amina, the mother of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the woman didn't want him anymore. So Amina became pregnant. He has no idea that his wife was pregnant. And his father sent him to Asham, to some of the businesses that they do in Asham. So he went for business, and he left his wife pregnant. And Amina was alone at home except for a young lady that lives with her, known as Baraka, nicknamed as Ayman. Ayman was a slave woman from the Abyssinia, Habasha, Ethiopia today, and other places answer the name in those days. So she was a slave black woman from Ethiopia that Abdullah bought from Suq Okaz, and he brought her home to come and give support to his wife. At the time she was somewhere around 12-13 years, very young woman. And this woman, true to her name, Baraka, she would play a role in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that no other human being would play such a role ever, because she was the only woman who knew Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from when he was a pregnancy in the womb of his mom till the day he died. She has been with him throughout his life. She never left him, he never left her. So she's a very special woman. Very special woman. Right? So that woman, at the time a young girl, together with, is it Tanya? Okay. I saw people looking at their wristwatch, so I thought we were bored already, or it's time.
Still 1 hour.
Okay. So Ayman was there with her. And one night, Amina saw a dream that kept her awake in the night. And she woke up. And there was nobody in the house to talk to except Ayman. So she called Ayman. She said, look, I saw a dream. And look at what I saw. I saw a light coming out of my body and illuminating for me the whole of the space that I can see, to the extent that I can see Qusur Sham. The skyscrapers of Sham or Syria, I can see them from where I am. And I can see as far as Iran, Persia at the time. And this light is coming from my body. This is confusing to me, what's happening. Ayman, as young as she was very wise woman, almost like a sage. She said, I don't know, but I think the dream you're seeing signifies that you are pregnant and you are going to give birth to a very blessed child. That's what I think. Ayman was 13 at the time, but she was that wise. So she kept talking to Ayman, and they kept chatting. Every day they talk, and they talk about the pregnancy, and then in the evening she would send Ayman to go out and go check where people, kind of like the border to Mecca, where people get stories about if someone comes from Sham or from Yemen, because these are the two places that they go for businesses, right? So if anyone comes, he comes with stories of people that he left behind. So she sent her to go there and find out if there's any story about her husband, Abdullah. And Ayman would go and come back with no story. No one is talking about it. Abdullah was not back yet. Yeah, they don't know what's going on. And she just sending her, and then she comes back and keep her company. They talk for a bit and sleep, and in the morning the same thing. Until one day, Ayman came with a very bad story. What was the story? The story coming is that Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib actually has passed away on his way back to Mecca. He was coming from Syria. He had a stopover in Medina, and he became sick in Medina, and he passed away in Medina. And that was a very, very devastating story to Amina bint Wahab, the mother of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And guess what? At that time she was 7 months pregnant, and probably that's the most trying time for pregnant women, right? When they are 7 months, their behaviors, right, and all the problems. And that was the time at which she received the story of her husband passing away in Medina. So it was really not an easy time for her, right? She definitely needed someone who was going to console her because she was pregnant and because her husband passed away. And guess who played that role? Ayman. So Ayman has been a very special woman in the life of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam long before he was born. That was why when he introduced her much later, after he got married, he introduced her to his wife, Sayyidah Khadija. He said, Ayman, hiya ummi ba'da ummi. She is my mother after my mother died. She is a woman who refused to get married just because she wanted to take care of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, radiyallahu anha. And she was the second woman to embrace Islam after Sayyidah Khadija. So his father died 2 months before he was born, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to this world an orphan. without a father. And I think this is very much aligned with what one of the Orientalists mentioned about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, if not his words now, these are my words, but I'm trying to say what he said. He said, if the enormity of the purpose, right, and the smallness of the means to achieve the purpose, and then the level of achievement of those purposes are the criteria to measure someone's greatness, who dare compares Muhammad with anyone? Three things. How huge, how large, how big is your purpose? Is your goal that you want to achieve? Then we look at your means to achieving that goal and realize that you actually have no means to achieving that goal at all. And then at the end of the day, we realize that you've actually achieved everything. You've even went way beyond the mark, even though there is no means supporting you to achieve that purpose. If these three things are the criteria to measure someone's success or greatness, then there's nobody that you can compare with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is someone who wants to change the world and has no means for changing the world whatsoever. He was actually born an orphan. But at the same time, he went way beyond the mark of success that is imaginable to any human being. The only one who has been successful to the highest order at both theological and secular level. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The only one in the history of mankind. Because anyone that is highly successful in theological level, at theological point of view, then you'll find out that that person is a failure in secular level. It doesn't determine what happens to people when they go to market. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam get to a point whereby he can determine whether you live or you don't. Capital punishment. That is the highest you can reach in terms of secular success. And at the same time, he is the one who did the 5 daily prayers. He tells people even how to sleep with their wives. Theologically. That's the highest imaginable level of theological success. No one else ever achieved that in the history of mankind. Alayhi salatu wasalam. So he was born in a way that we can't imagine him being successful, but he still became the most successful that the humanity has ever seen. He was born an orphan. His father died and left behind only a couple of sheep and Ayman. These are the only things. So by the standard of the time in which Abdullah died, you cannot say that Abdullah was a rich person. Neither would you say that he was a poor person, because he was still a very young person. He was like 25 at the time. So he had the opportunity to keep increasing his wealth until he becomes rich. But he did not see that. He did not happen to live long enough. So he wasn't rich, but he wasn't absolutely poor at the time. He was somewhere in the middle by the standard of the time and the place where he lived. But guess what? The place where he lived cannot be the standard of measuring wealth around the world, because Mecca at the time was just a small, tiny little village. It wasn't even part of the global map at the time. Who knows Mecca at the time? It was just a small little village. Right? And most people there are actually poor people, poor peasants who relied on the milk of their camels and sheep and all of that. That is their lives. So Prophet ﷺ wasn't born into riches. He was born into a very moderate family, and he lost his father 2 months before he came to this world. His whole family was very happy. His grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, took him to the Kaaba for the blessings of Kaaba and gave him the name Muhammad. The name Muhammad was not popular at the time. People were not naming their kids Muhammad. So people asked him, why did you name him Muhammad? He said, because I want him to have the praises of the people on earth and the celestial and in the celestial world. I want everyone to praise him because that is the name of the name Muhammad, the praised one. But actually, if you look at some of the kutub of Seerah, some of the books of Seerah, they mention that because of the narrative around the time that the prophet of the end time was coming very soon, there are a couple of people around the Arab world that gave the name Muhammad to some few individuals. It wasn't very popular, but some people actually gave the name Muhammad, hoping that those people named Muhammad would be the prophets. But Allah has already given it to this particular Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His grandfather gave him the name Muhammad. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived with his mother. Lived with his mother for 4 years. But he was still small, toddler. Didn't recognize what's going on as of yet. When the people of some smaller villages in the middle of the Sahara came looking for kids that they are going to go and take care of. And it was the culture of Arabs at the time that they take small babies to go and raise them in the smaller villages in the Sahara because they had the chance of speaking better Arabic and they would have the chance of understanding life better if they do in those. So even though Makkah itself was a village at the time, but there are some smaller villages. So these people came from the tribe Banu Sa'd. And there's this woman called Halimatu Sa'diyya. And she came with her husband known as Abu Kabsha. And they came looking for someone to raise. They started going from house to house, from family to family, from household to household, looking for a baby until they reached Sayyidah Amina and they got Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then they were told that actually this baby is an orphan. He lost his father before he was born. Would you like to take him? Amina was, Sayyidah Halimatu Sa'diyya was very hesitant. She was like, I would have to talk to my husband. You know, kind of what happened these days, if a person doesn't want to do something, he would tell you that, I think I would have to talk to my husband, or I would have to talk to my wife about this, right? Kind of a sign that we don't want to go this route, right? So she was like, I would have to talk to my husband about this. And then she went back to her husband. I didn't get any child, but there's this child who's orphan. His name is Muhammad. What do you think? Do you think we should take him? He was like, I don't know. Would you like to take him? I mean, what are you going to get out of that? Right? Because they were hoping to get some gifts from the father of the babies they are taking. But this guy here is an orphan, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? So they excused themselves basically and refused to take Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they kept looking around Makkah to find another baby. And it was time for them to leave, and all the other women that came with Sayyidah Halima, they got a child except for Sayyidah Halima, because Allah has something very special for her. And they even set out to start going back when she was like, but why should we go back? We came all the way from Bani Sa'd, all the way to this place to get a child. And we can't go back empty-handed. And the husband was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? It's like, I have a sense that orphan child, I mean, we can't get anybody else. It was like, I mean, that is what he wants. She went and took Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the time, I think he was 2 years, not 4 years. She went and took him, and they left. She was actually a very poor woman. Her family was a very poor family. They had, what they write was, so they were riding a donkey that's limping. The donkey they were riding was actually limping because it has problem in one of his legs. And their sheep was very skinny because they were not getting enough to eat. They didn't have any milk. Right? But they took Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Immediately they took Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They just saw barakah. Literally saw barakah in their family instantly, like right away. The energy that their donkey started exhibiting was superb, was not like anything they have seen before. And their sheep started getting what to eat, and the milk, and everything. It was amazing. It was so amazing and so obvious that they had to confess right there and then that what is happening to us has to do with this baby. This is not normal. It has never happened this way. This is something that definitely has to do directly with this baby that we've taken, because we've never seen this before. And it's just too much to ignore. It's too much to ignore. They took Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to their family, and he became part of their family. So we're going to stop here. And now Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in Bani Sa'd. Inshallah, when we come next week, we're going to look at how his life was in Bani Sa'd and what happened, and when did he come back to his mother, Sayyidah Amina radiyallahu anha. So we don't know if we can be able to take 1 or 2 questions before we call it a day, inshallah. So any questions, also especially from the side of the sisters?
How did he get Muhammad Ali?
And the brother is asking, how did the Prophet Muhammad get the name Muhammad al-Amin? Muhammad al-Amin actually came before he was even sent, before he became a prophet. What it means is, al-Amin, what Amin means is the honest one, right? The honest one, that is what it means, right? And it is the people of Makkah who used to entrust him with their things when they are traveling. They come and give their amanat to him, and he used to return the amanat to them in the exact same way that it was given to him, right? So he has a reputation for being the most honest person in Makkah, way before he was even sent. That was why after he was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to become a prophet, it was very confusing for them because they can't charge him with any bad doings. They can't accuse him of being dishonest person. But they have to accept him being a prophet. So it was confusing to them. So that is why Allah described the situation as these people are actually not accusing you of being a liar because they don't have any proof. They know within themselves that you're the most honest person. They are just fighting with the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
But
What's about the name of Ahmad?
The name Ahmad actually is very interesting. In the books that came, that Allah sent all the prophets with, like Injil, Torah, all the books, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called Muhammad Ahmad. He called him with that name, Ahmad. That is why when Allah is giving us a story of Isa alayhi salam, he mentioned وَمُبَشِّرًا بِرَسُولٍ يَأْتِي مِنْ بَعْدِ اسْمُهُ أَحْمَدٍ. And he's telling his people, he's giving his people the glad tidings that there's a prophet coming after me and his name is going to be Ahmad. Right? So his name, Ahmad, is the name that Allah called him in books.
Same meaning actually.
Yeah, they have same meaning, Muhammad, Ahmad. There's something called Ismu Tafdeel in Arabic language, which is kind of like the equivalent of what is called superlative in English, right? When we say good, best, right? That is kind of the difference between Muhammad and Ahmad. Muhammad is the praiseworthy, and Ahmad is the most praiseworthy. Right? That is what it means, and that is where it came from. Yes, please.
How many names does the Prophet have?
Who would know that?
So many.
Who would know that? Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. And it came in a hadith that he called himself many names. He said, Ana Muhammad, Ana Ahmad, Ana Mahin, Ana Hashir. Many names, right? But to actually sit down and count, I'm not saying that there are no scholars that did that. There are many books of Seerah that made attempt to count the names that came in Quran and Hadith, and even in the books that came before us. I can't give you a number right now, but there's no way actually you can see that this is the exact number of the names of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has. You can do as much as you can do counting the names, but yeah, you can't say this is the number. Just like saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has 99 names that we are fond of saying, right? Because it came in a hadith that in Lillahi tis'atun wa tis'una isman, Allah has 99 names, man ahsaha, to the end of the hadith. But that doesn't mean that that is the only names that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, because even in the Quran you have more than 120 names ascribed to Allah in the Quran, right? And in a hadith you have many other names. But it just means that this particular 99 has some special place. Right? That is what it means. Yes, please. Wa alaikum salam.
My questions are two. The first one has to do with the history, as you mentioned, surrounding the Zemzem. Okay, at a time, the water was buried, and then Abdul Muttalib has to come and dig it up again. Now, this happened centuries ago. Until today, people are still benefiting from that Zemzem. Okay? And we've been made to believe that when you do something, even after you have passed on, and people keep benefiting from that, there are rewards for you who have done that particular incident. Now, in the case of this Abdul Muttalib, you rediscovered the Zemzem, and up to today, people are still benefiting from it. Will you still continue to get reward for people benefiting from this way? Okay, and again, if it is so, what is that takeaway for us today to take from that in terms of contributing towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I don't know if that is clear.
That's clear. That's
so
clear.
that's the first one. Then the second one is Abdullah. You mentioned that he was, the beloved of everybody because he is of good characters and moralities. Now, for us now to raise an upright child, what is the place of being upright and upholding the right morality has to do with raising, an upright child in the law of Islam?
Thank you very much. Actually, these are very important questions. The first question is about what is called in Islam a sadaqatul jariyah, right? The sadaqah that will keep going, keep giving you rewards, right? That's kind of like, is it kind of like side hustle, like passive income kind of thing? You invest and the income keeps coming to you. Yeah. This is part of our Sharia, right? If you do anything that people keep benefiting from, you keep getting the ajr for as long as people are benefiting from that. And this came in hadith. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned three things. He said in Sahih hadith that إذا مات العبد انقطع من عمله إلا من ثلاث صدقة الجارية عمل صالح لا ولد صالح يدعو له and what's the third one? علم ينتفع به. Right? These are the three things the Prophet mentioned. If a person dies, his work stopped except for three. If he taught people some knowledge and they keep using the knowledge, he keeps getting the ajr anytime anyone uses that knowledge. And then if he has a child, a good child that is praying for him, he keeps getting the ajr of that child praying for him. And then the sadaqatul jariyah, establishing something, waqf or something that people will keep using and he will be getting the ajr. Okay, does that apply to Abdul Muttalib? That is kind of the second leg of the question. Abdul Muttalib did not live to see Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam profess the prophecy and be a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the best bet is Abdul Muttalib will be on the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? Al-Hanifiyya, or maybe Al-Fatra, right? So whichever the case may be, if he is on the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the question to ask here is sadaqah jariyah part of the sharia of Ibrahim alayhi salam or not? That's the question. Because Allah sent all prophets with the same religion but different sharia. Like in our case, in usul al-fiqh, what is called usul al-fiqh, there's something called shar'u man qablana. Shar'u man qablana, which is like the sharia, the legal concept of the people before us. Sometimes it becomes part of our sharia if it is not clearly abrogated by al-Quran or al-Hadith. إِذَا لَمْ يَتِمَّ النَّسْخ. Right? So that is the only way it becomes part of our sharia. So we don't know now if a sadaqatul jariyah is part of the religion, part of the sharia of the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So we can't categorically say that this also applies to Abdul Muttalib. We can't say that, right? But for example, you go to Makkah today, there's a very large farm of dates that is ascribed to Uthman ibn Affan. Uthman ibn Affan was so wealthy in his time, and the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has this very large, and it is ascribed to him as part of the waqf that he left. He will still get the ajr for that. He will still get it till Yawm al-Qiyamah, for as long as people keep benefiting from that, right? There's an account, a bank account, open in the name of Uthman ibn Affan, because of some waqf he left. The money keeps growing, and that bank account is still there in the name of Uthman ibn Affan. And whatever the money is used for to benefit Ummah, Uthman ibn Affan is going to get ajr from that, right? So that is the way that works. And then the role of being an upright person, that is your second question, in raising an upright question. There's no question about this. The best methodology ever in trying to raise an upright child, the best method is for you to be an upright person. That's the best way, right? You can't use, because it's not a game that you just use some, strategies to win the game. No. Allah describes in the Quran many incidences where He protects kids from going astray because of their father. That is the magic. That is the trick. He wants to raise the best of kids Be the best human being. Right? Allah will take care of your kids. Right? Inna Allah la yudi'u ajra man ahsana amala. You can't just go on sin spree and commit whatever you want. Then the time you start raising your kids, still like, okay, I'm a changed person, now I'm a good person. I want my kids to be. Who are you really duping here? I mean, it doesn't add up, right? Who are you playing games with? Can't play pranks on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want good kids? Be a good person. There's a story of one of the great tabi'un, I think his name was Sayyid. One of his kids asked him that I used to see you praying nafila at this particular time. Why do you do that? He said he said, I'm doing that so that you become a good person. I'm doing that and praying to Allah so you become a good person, and I've been doing that 20 years before you were born. 20 years before his son was born, he was praying nafila, 2 rak'ah, every single day, praying that Allah gives him a good son. So you have to do it yourself. You have to do it yourself, because when you have a son, your son is going to inherit what you've been doing. That is what the prayers of some prophets are. يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ وَاجْعَلْهُ رَبِّ رَضِيًّا. Right? So that is kind of the whole what you want to raise a good kid, be a good human being, and Allah will take care of the rest, inshallah. So probably we'll stop here, right? Allahumma hadina fi man hadita, tawallana fi man tawallayta, barik lana fi ma a'tayta, وقنا واصرف عنا برحمتك شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ربنا زكي نفوسنا وآتها تقواها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي الذي يجدونه مكتوبا عندهم بالتوراة والإنجيل يأمرهم بالمعروف وينهاهم عن المنكر ويحل لهم الطيبات ويحرم عليهم الخبائث ويضع عنهم إصرهم والأغلال التي كانت عليهم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.